All right, everybody, welcome to the 332nd edition of the Holy Backboard Podcast. I am Dustin here in Rip City, and I got my man.
Sage, Sage here live and direct. We're talking about a prospect we both have some serious FOMO on. So I want you to talk about what his rivals was so we can show them how they missed on Taylor Hendricks.
Yeah, obviously, the Future Friday we are discussing and breaking down today is Central Florida's Taylor Hendricks. He is a 6'9", 210-pound forward. The wingspan still is yet to be determined. We'll probably find that out at the combine. And he is a freshman. Kind of came out of the woodworks, like came out of left field. Nobody really expected him to be a one and done, sort of like Malachi Branham last year for Ohio State. Solid player, 4-star from rivals, the 9th overall power forward coming out of the class. He was from Calvary Christian Academy in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but by no stretch of the imagination was he considered on anybody's radar really coming into the season. If you looked at any mock drafts or any big boards, top power forwards lists, his name was left off. But he had a really sensational, eye-popping year at UCF where he played in 34 games, played 35 minutes a night, and the college games are 40 minutes. So he's essentially playing like 90% of his team's games, averaged 15 points, shot 48% from the field, shot 40% from three on 4.5 attempts per game. The good news, shot 78% from the line, which is always a good indicator of transitioning from collegiate to the pros. Hold down 7 boards, which you love to see as a power forward. Blocked nearly 2 shots per game, almost a steal per game, an assist and a half, only 1.5 turnovers, which is really good to see for such a young player. And he really has risen. 10th on Tankathon's a big board, the 3rd power forward on their list behind Jarris Walker and Cam Whitmore. And the Ringer actually bumped him up to number 8 on their big board. His ceiling, if you look at mock drafts, really, I've seen it as high as 4. I don't think his floor is top 12. Like, he will not get past the top 12. He is definitely has solidified himself as a lottery prospect. And I think he's another name that's kind of on the rise, where you have so many other, once you get past maybe the big 3, maybe throw in the Thompson twins as the big 5, he is a player that is viewed as someone with a lot of upside. He's already shown the potential. He's already kind of put those flashes to paper, but given his age, kind of coming out of nowhere, coming onto the scene like hot, and you start to see the measurables. You see how fluid he moves. You see the things that he can do on the defensive end. You see the shooting stroke and how just compact and nice it looks like. It's an aesthetically pleasing shooting stroke, which you love to see, especially for a big man. All of those things, the modern NBA forward, he is going to rise on these draft boards. I anticipate he's probably not going to slip past number 8. And if you're Portland, you're sitting right there with the 5th best lottery odds. Probably can't pick lower than 9th if you stay at 5. So this could be a prospect right in your radar. And not only could he be the best available prospect, but he is a definite position of need.
Oh,
As
yeah.
we all know, Portland needs those wings and those forwards with size, athleticism, two-way potential. He really checks all the boxes. And he could be a player that when you look back into this draft class 5-10 years, people say he went 8. Why didn't he go top 3? Why didn't he go top 5? He kind of is the flavor of the month right now. When you look at a lot of the draft content that is being mentioned out there, he's a really nice prospect. It's going to be interesting to see what he measures at the combine. And then I think he will soar higher if he has really solid individual workouts. We've seen that before with prospects. They just absolutely destroy it in these workouts and their stock starts to inflate. But even if he does struggle a bit, I don't see him slipping out of that top 8 to 10. Sage, this is a prospect that you're really high on. What does Taylor Hendricks do specifically that gets you really excited and you believe that he can translate and transform his skill set from the NCAA to the NBA?
Well, I think for the Blazers, the position of need is so glaring. Obviously, he's behind the two franchise changers in Wemby and Scoot, and then I would put Jarris in front of him, and then really he's fourth on my list if I was drafting for the Trailblazers. It's the versatility he has to hit threes, play as a playmaking defender, one of the best reactionary defenders in the draft. I think I'm going to compare him to Jarris a lot. I think Jarris anticipates better, but Taylor reacts to stuff at a lot like as the best power forward wing in the draft. He just reacts to things. So
I
you
feel
could
like
see
he's
him.
got a slightly higher edge when it comes to athleticism as
Oh
well.
yeah. Well, Jarris has that Zion body, so you don't want him to have the Zion jumping ability because that body's gonna eventually land on the floor. I mean Hendricks
One's a
has just
tank, one's a pogo stick.
yeah, and Hendricks, I think just the athleticism that he has is just so functional for the NBA. It like he unloads like all of the athleticism from his legs, and that's what you want in an NBA athlete. Like I know that the Thompson twins are super duper athletic, but for the NBA, isn't there an argument that you could say Taylor Hendricks is more athletic and properly athletic for the NBA instead of like track and field or whatever? Because what he does and his functional athleticism and his skill to just be a really, really good shooter, man, he's gonna be. I have him at 4, man. So
It's the same argument when you look at somebody like I follow college football recruiting quite a bit, and you see like, oh, this track star ran like a 4.25 40.
mm,
You know, just put him on the football field, and he's going to dominate. Well, it's not just, you know, how many times do you get the ball in the open field and you just have to outrun your opponent? Maybe once or twice a season you
yeah,
get that. You have to be able to stop and go, you know, move left, move right, and, you know, turn, move your hips. Like there's just so many different things. You have to move your chest, you have to move your legs, move your arms. So it's not just, you
flat
know,
out
front
speed.
line,
Yeah.
this is my quick burst, this is what I'm going to do. As we've seen with Shaden Sharp, he's able to get by his defender early on the year. He didn't know what he wanted to do, how he wanted to finish. Like getting to that burst is only like step one. Then you
Mm.
have to figure out what you're going to do. And thankfully, we are seeing Shaden start to, you know, go into defenders, you know, use better angles, use his length and throw it up higher off the glass, and just find these, you know, nooks and crannies and crevices to get that ball in the basket. It's kind of what you're seeing and describing with Taylor Hendricks is he's going to have to not only use that burst, but then figure out how is he going to use his arms. He's got really good timing, and timing is so imperative, especially for a player touted as, you know, a shot blocker, a rim protector, both, you know, on ball and off ball. He's, you know, that's probably where I want to start with him is defense. I think when you're
Okay,
drafting
let's
Taylor
start.
Hendricks, you're drafting him for his defensive potential, right? He is going to go out there and he's going to be an absolute stud block, you know, protecting that rim. And unlike, say, a Rudy Gobert or a Walker Kessler, the intent with him is he may not have the actual verticality in terms of the size, but he can play away from the basket, and you can start to stretch him further and further in terms of his responsibilities. He's got good instincts, maybe not the level of Jarris Walker, but
No, it's just that reactionary speed is so fast that it makes
he's
up for
got, yeah,
the
he
chest
just
moves.
knows where to be. And then you can start throwing out some really fun lineups. Like if he able, obviously he's going to bulk up. Like he's not going to play at 210 for his entire
Do you
career.
think he needs like 20 pounds of muscle?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably I would love to see him around 240. You know,
Because
that's
I because I was watching the two games you should watch if you're watching a Taylor Hendricks game. Houston the first time, Houston the second time. Because the first game, like if you're looking for a guy that's NBA bully, Jarris Walker is the perfect example, and they're in the same division. He got bullied that first game. Game two, of course, Jarris got his bullying in, but he was much more willing to take on the punishment that Jarris Walker gives. So once he gets the 25 pounds of muscle, I think that the worry of like him getting bullied is just gone. Like that body is so ready to put on functional strength. Like he has all the potential in the world with that body just to put on like good strength and still be able to be quick and explosive. So I mean that reactionary thing that he has where he could just know he sees what's happening and goes is just so
If he
special.
gets up to 230, 240, is there small ball five potential in
Oh,
his
easily. I
ceiling?
think so, easily. I don't know if you start him at the 5, but you
No.
play like 20 minutes of his like 30 at the 5. Like how often does the power forward and the center on good teams play together at the same time? It's not that much. So I'm sure that there will be some small ball 5 in his future. You don't put him on Jokic or Embiid, but does your starting center have any better chance at defending either of those two? Those two are just special for, their own reasons.
I think you really want to see him grow into a player that if a team like a Phoenix or Atlanta, where they have really good lob threats out of the pick and roll, that's where you want to see him as the small ball five because he's able to blow up maybe that pick and roll with the ball
Mm-hmm.
handler, but have the quick reactionary speed to get back and body with an Aiton or a Capella
Mm-hmm.
and use his length to get up there and knock those lob attempts away because we all know the NBA is predicated on the pick and roll first and foremost, and those lobs are so difficult to defend, and you need a specific type of big defender who can play close but can play far, has the quickness and the nimble feet to dance with the point guards, but has some strength and athleticism to go up there and really bang with the true NBA center. So there is a lot of things to love about Taylor Hendricks. Is there
And what you
anything
said is so
else?
rare too. Like,
Is there
how
anything
many
else
guys can guard
defensively?
Chris and then guard Aiton on the same play? It's
Is there
not many
anything else
dudes.
defensively that he needs to work on, or do you think he's a pretty great, ready to plug and play project defensively right off the bat?
I mean, I think the question is the weight. When is he going to put on the weight? Because it might that first year he might get bullied by the Aitons, the those type of centers. But honestly, I think you put him on the Bulls, you put him on the Blazers, you put him on a team where there's elite talent, like the Blazers with Dame and Shaden, and he fits in that role right now and has room to blossom once he puts that weight on. So defensively, I don't really have any issues with him. You put him in the scheme, he learns the scheme. He's gonna make our lives easier because of the reactionary skill set that he has and his movement abilities. Like, if Dame gets blown up on a screen, you don't really have if Mike Conley's dribbling, you don't really have the worry that he's blown by Taylor Hendricks. You're good. Of course, De'Aaron Fox is going to those explosive jitterbugs. There's no big guy that can handle them, but for a lot of guards, I feel perfectly fine with Taylor just switching, playing defense, putting in an effort so the offensive player has to work a bit. Like, there's so many damn good guards that are just too small to be in the NBA. Like, the way that he switches onto those guards, it's like they're confused because a guy that tall, that quick shouldn't really exist in their conference. So they like do the thing that normally gets the blow by and then it doesn't work. So they have to reset. If an NBA player has to reset because Taylor Hendricks is that good of a defender, he's worth his weight in gold. Like, he's gonna get $300 million contracts if he's that defender.
Switching gears to the offensive side of the basketball, clearly, I think his one projected skill set is shooting off of the catch and shoot from downtown at UCF. Took nearly 5 attempts from three per game, hit almost 40%, which you love to see. Is there anything else that he could take day one to the league, or is it just like right now he is only a catch and shoot threat from three?
I think he's dunks and threes right now because I've seen him in the games that I watched. He just cuts baseline on people not really paying attention off ball. So I think dunks and threes is what he's going to give you day one. UCF tried in the later part of the season to give him more playmaking reps, and there's definitely potential. Since he's so tall, he could, if he develops like that one move, he's just gonna shoot over smaller people. Like, he has the ability shooting wise where he just needs to develop and get some counters and get some playmaking reps. And they tried to do it, but I think that he has a twin brother that he deferred to a lot. So really, he's just learning how to shoot. and how to play offense without his brother. So I think that it's a development, and since we're seeing these for real spikes, and I believe that the shooting is for real. Like, just think about it when he gets more opportunities in higher level to develop these skills that have just never been utilized because he has a brother that he's been playing with. So I think right now it's the playmaking that he has to work with, but if he can develop any of it, it takes him from a super role player to an all-star. What do you think about his offense?
And that's the big question mark. I think there's the two things holding Taylor Hendricks back, I think, are going. I think he is a player that does need to go to the right system. I think he's a player that needs to be developed properly. I do think he's further away from developing than maybe a Jarris who
Oh
is
yeah.
NBA, he's NBA ready right now. But then again, I was watching, videos on Taylor, and somebody mentioned that nobody thought he would be this good this fast. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe he does come in right away, and you're able to play him 15, 20 minutes a night. That would be the goal. But I think keep the expectations low, let him get into that weight room. I think you're gonna have to bring him along slowly offensively. I do like the ability to catch and shoot. I like the potential to get him in the dunker spot on offense and let him use his athleticism. But I think if you're maybe tanking down the stretch, or it's a blowout, or even in the summer league, you want to start to see, okay, can we give him the ball in isolation? Can he dribble past his man? Can he shoot a face-up jumper? Is he a pick and pop threat rather than just catch and shoot? Like, what are the ways that you can utilize him so he's not just um a 3-and-D type of player, right? Like, I think Jeremy Grant is kind of a good example of how he evolved as a player.
Mm-hmm.
At Oklahoma City, you go back to that playoff series where Portland was playing them, he was almost exclusively in that corner, ready to shoot off of passing drives from Westbrook and PG. Now you saw earlier in the season this year where he had the ball in isolation. He could do a little bit of a one dribble pull up. He could pick and pop. He could,
Euro step him.
he could Euro step. He could drive to the basket. Like, can he make that evolution to start to add more things to his bag? Because if you're drafting him in the top 5, even as good of a defender as you can project him, he needs to add more than just being a catch and shoot. Like, you're looking at legitimately, like, can this guy be a second star to Shaden down the road? Right? Like, we all love Dame, but if we're drafting and keeping this pick, it's how can this player play next to 19, 20-year-old Shaden Sharp for the next 10, 12 years? So you're drafting someone in the top 4, who knows, top 5, who knows the next time you're going to get to this spot. And we
Mm-hmm.
all know Portland isn't a free agent destination. So the ability to grab these all-star caliber players is right here via the draft. You have to really believe in Taylor Hendricks that he can get to that level if you're taking him that high. And that's probably why Portland swung for the fences with Shaden Sharp last year, is because they knew they needed a superstar level. Thankfully, I think they hit. Obviously, it'll take more development, but I think they hit. Now you got the big one off the board. I think you got that all world player, that wing off the board. Now you need to start to do something they haven't done since 06 when they drafted Brandon and LaMarcus. Can they find the Robin to Shaden's Batman? And they came close with CJ, but the positionality, the fit, it was just all too similar, and it kind of duplicated and almost cannibalized each other when he and Dame were on the floor. So if you're drafting right here for Portland, you need to believe that Taylor can be more than the 3-and-D, that he is going to be, that they can run pick and roll. I mean, we already seen what Shaden can do when he's operating and even finding Drew Eubanks on these,
Mm-hmm.
pocket passes for dunks, on these lob passes. Like, clearly you want to see that. But what would make him even a better creator is if Drew Eubanks hypothetically was a pick and pop threat. Now you could run that, and the
Mm-hmm.
defense would have to respect that. They wouldn't be able just to follow Drew to the basket. They'd have to be like, oh, is he gonna pop out? Make them think a little bit more. So if Taylor can get that, and I don't think that's too big of an ask. If you're already having a good solid form, you're already shooting 40% from 3, 78 from the line, you
Confident.
should be able to hit a 20-foot open jumper. And if Shaden develops like we think he can, he is going to have a similar gravity to that of Damian Lillard, where the defenses are focused on him, and it's going to open it up for everything else. to really unlock the 99th percentile, I think it's just the dribbling. Can he get by his defender? I don't know if he's going to be a playmaker. I think Portland would have to figure out that role elsewhere. But if he could dribble and score by himself with Shaden on the bench or Shaden in foul trouble, giving some examples, that's going to really make this pick, a swing and a drive to deep left field, right? Like that's going to be a home run pick, is if he's able to play the defense, but also be self-sufficient on offense, not always relying on a creator getting him the ball. That's my biggest question mark. And it's a big question mark for a lot of players, Jarris Walker as well. Like it's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to develop. But the teams that are successful now figure that out in the draft. They draft well.
I feel like I feel like his warts with Taylor are a lot less than Brandon Miller with his lack of athleticism and lack of strength. Both Thompson twins have issues with a men can't shoot worth a damn.
Not only can't shoot, the form is just completely broke.
He has troubles with shooting too. It's a small track record of him being good at shooting. In the playoffs, he shot 8 attempts and hit 37%, which is good, but for the longest time, we thought those two couldn't really shoot. So I think that outside of the franchise changers and Jarris, who I think is just better right now and probably in the future than Taylor, I'm willing to take a bet on Hendricks's warts, that they're fixable, rather than trying to rebuild the Thompson twins shot or trying to make Brandon Miller 20% more athletic, because I don't think that's happening. But I think Taylor Hendricks, all of his stuff is you can rep that out. You can rep out getting him one move. And even if it's an inefficient time where he's the star player, it's still better than trying to convince the Thompson twins to fix that broken jump shot. So with that, I'm totally willing to, like, if the big three of Jarris and the two franchise changers are off the board, I think it is a much easier chance of getting the best out of Taylor Hendricks than it is for those Thompson twins and Brandon Miller.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Twins have a tough time shooting the ball. Brandon Miller had a good percentage, but I worry about his form and putting the ball right in front of his face. I think NBA defenders could have a field day.
He pays more himself.
Yeah, closing out, and I think it really limits his ability to do anything other than catch and shoot, right? If you're putting the ball in front of your face, it's going to be harder to come off of screens. It's going to be hard to shoot off the step back. Like, it's just going to be hard to become a versatile scorer. Whereas
people
I think
got too excited with Brandon. Like, they call him Paul George, and it's like, Paul George never had these athletic concerns.
No,
wasn't it the opposite? Like, he's a nutty athlete. We're just worried about his shot. Now it's like Paul George, that's like the thing that you don't worry about is his shot. So
I feel like Paul George is like the soup du jour. It's the soup of the day when it comes to comparing 6'9" wing. Everyone's like, Paul George. He looks like, I mean, it's just the name.
You see all the comparisons, like the 19th man shades of Paul George. I'm like, no, if he had spades of Paul George, he would be 8, not 19.
Yeah. What would you agree with this? Jarris Walker has a higher floor than Taylor Hendricks, but the ceiling is higher for Taylor Hendricks than Jarris Walker.
No, I think both are higher.
Really?
I think that Taylor Hendricks fits better, but Jarris has the ability, you can put Taylor Hendricks in the corner year one. You can't really do that with Jarris. So you have to have a plan with Jarris, but I think if you have that plan with Jarris, his ceiling's higher.
Is there any concern that Jarris he has a football body? Let's just he has a football body. Is there any concerns about that at the next level, being too bulky, like too friggin' strong? Like, he's a tank.
I hate that we're making the Taylor Hendricks a little bit about Jarris, but
it has to be, because these are the two forward prospects that Portland could be staring down. Yeah. Like, I
don't really have any, like, I obviously I have concerns about Zion, but I don't think Jarris is that nutty of an athlete where, like, I think everything's like, he is a good athlete. And, like, on the fast break, some point guard is going to think about taking a charge from him, and then no one will ever do that shit again because he's too strong. I don't really have that worry about Jarris with the injury issues. So no, that's why I think that he's obviously safer, but I think that he Taylor is trying to develop the playmaking and the moves, but Jarris already has it, and if he makes his footwork better, it's going to be a problem for the rest of the league. Like, I love AJ Griffin. He couldn't drive to the lane straight, and he was still a good prospect. Jarris kind of has that issue with his feet footwork. So if he can get the feet footwork good, sky's the limit for Jarris Walker.
Taylor's got the better jump shot, though.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So you are putting more stock in Jarris catching up to Taylor's jump shot than Taylor catching up to Jarris's playmaking ability.
Yes. I think that shooting is a lot easier to develop than playmaking. Because I don't think Taylor's a good playmaker right now.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think it's too young in his development too.
Jarris's vision's special. So I think it'll be easier to rep out shots than it will be rep out playmaking.
I do think Taylor's ceiling might be a little higher. I think Jarris is the better floor. I think he has the higher floor, but I think shooting is it's just not as easy as you think
Jarris shot 40% off catch and shoot, so it's not like he's
no. I'm just like I just he's bouncy. Some of the block slips, like
both of them have humongous ceilings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I like them both as prospects. I think Taylor's ceiling of you.
So would you take him over Jarris because of the potential? So let's say
that is a good question.
So the Thompson twins are gone, Brandon's gone, and then the two franchise changes.
Well, one, I think Brandon Miller's an overrated prospect, so I have both of these players ahead of Brandon Miller. I have them both ahead of Amen Thompson as well. I don't think that you have to be able to shoot in today's NBA. Yeah. Amen simply can't. I think the shot's completely broke. I think he's definitely. It's hard to say. Like on one hand, I'm like, yes, he's definitely worthy of a top 10 pick, but on the other hand, my head is saying he's not going to pan out because he can't shoot. So why would you take a top 10 pick on that player? So it's like you have to really figure something out with Amen and make it. He is the ultimate scheme fit. Like he has to go to the right scheme, right team, right players around him. It's not like a Dame or an Anthony Davis where day one they're like, yep, they fit him with everybody, right? It's the opposite. So that's difficult. I'm intrigued by Asar because the shooting technique is much improved, and that is already a massive step in the right direction. And I think he's a fantastic defender. So I think if I had to say right now, like my five, you've got Wemby, Scoot, you've got Jarris, you've got Hendricks, and you've got Asar Thompson. I really like those. I like those five. I think I'm higher. I like the other Thompson twin more than the other. And
the less heralded Thompson twin.
Yeah, I think I see something more translatable in the modern NBA.
I think Asar also has the best outside of Scoot. He has the best handle in the class. Scoot's the best dribbler, but Asar, like I think you're gonna have the Asar step back or the Asar behind the back in NBA 2K in a few years. Amen is too fast for any dribble moves, really. If you watch him, he's just like he'll try and do the same move, and then it's a turnover because he's too damn fast. But yeah, those are my five as well. But so would you take him? Would you take Hendricks over Jarris? I wouldn't.
You would take Taylor Hendricks over Jarris?
No. I would take Jarris over Hendricks.
I don't know yet. I want to watch. I want to see how they measure at the combine. I want to watch. I know it's like trivial and they're mostly 1-on-1 workouts, but sometimes they do 5-on-5. I want to see footage from teams when they have Jarris.
They'll take part in the 5-on-5.
Shaden did 5-on-5 workouts,
but Shaden was also the man of mystery.
But he was also guaranteed top 10. So it's like he's, I want to see like that footage that teams released because you saw stuff Shaden was doing like, oh fuck, like this guy's legit.
Yeah.
Like he looks the part. Like there's something about watching a prospect and you're like, yep, that he's going to be it. Sometimes they don't look that great in these workouts and it turns out great, but you feel better when you see those workouts. You're like, okay, the way they carry themselves, the way they move on the floor, they have a natural gait. It just looks smooth and effortless. It's kind of what I want to see. So I need to see more. It'll be interesting to see what else the Blazers do in the offseason, but I think they can't go wrong if they don't get one of those top 2 picks with either of the forwards. Give me some comps for Taylor Hendricks.
I think his bottom, I mean, this guy had some major injury issues, but when you watched him at Auburn, Chuma Okeke has all the same defensive greatness, like those the steals per game, the blocks per game, the energy was so similar to Taylor that I was like, well, that has to be the comp. Now, injuries really ruined his NBA career, but when he plays, he still has the ability. His lateral quickness is kind of gone, but he's still fast as hell. So he gets the defensive stats. Like he can get like 5 stocks in a 20-minute period. But like the athleticism, the defense of Chuma Okeke in Orlando, that if shit goes wrong with Taylor, I still think he's got the Chuma Okeke defensive specialist energy guy locked down.
Who do you have for his middle?
Who do you have for his 50th?
I don't have a bottom. I couldn't think of one.
Okay. It's really difficult because he's so tall and such a good shooter that like
maybe someone like Tyrus Thomas with a league average 3-point stand in the corner shot. Like, I loved Tyrus Thomas at LSU.
too.
Full disclosure, wanted him more than LaMarcus Aldridge. I was enamored with that Sweet 16. I think it was an Elite 8 or Sweet 16 game where he completely just dismantled, LA. Awesome shot blocker, awesome athlete. Just could never figure it out in the NBA. Couldn't shoot. I do think Taylor can shoot. That's why I think it could just be like a Tyrus type of player with, just stand in the corner type of offensive abilities.
And he can do, like, I think both of them have the ability to cut really well and use that God-given athleticism. I was looking at all the stats and like it was nothing but like Malik Beasley type of like 6'4", 6'5" guards with the shooting ability of Taylor. And it's like, there's not that many 6'9" dudes that have the shooting versatility of Taylor Hendricks. So it's really difficult. My middle and top are based on the movement a lot and the defensive acumen of them. And I really don't like this person's personality. But when I look at the bodies and the way they move, John Isaac is a really good comp for the movement and the body. John Isaac can't shoot.
John Isaac.
What's up?
Pre-injury, correct?
Pre-injury, of course. But like John Isaac that can have like a really good jumper, I think could change things. Like even in the 10-minute spurts that he has in Orlando, he is putting up some numbers defensively and like with his athleticism. So a pre-injury, good attitude, good shooting Jonathan Isaac. I mean, the bodies are just so similar. You see what John Isaac looks like when he put on the good muscle. It's like those two look quite similar and move the same.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think there's a better comparison for middle. Like I think he's a better shooting John Isaac.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. He's like a good shooting John Isaac, which is an all-star, I think.
My ceiling for Taylor, and you have to hear me out, is a modern day version of Cliff Robinson.
I like it.
Robinson was 6th man of the year. He was an all-star in '94. Had he played in this era, he would have been a multi-time all-star. He could have possibly been a defensive player of the year. I know Jaren Jackson Jr. gets thrown out there a lot, but to be honest, I'm not the biggest Triple J fan. I don't think he's going to win it. I don't think he's the best defensive player in the league. I think Cliff Robinson had a good handle. He could shoot the one dribble pull up. He was shooting threes before any other 6'9", 6'10" big man was shooting threes. He had defensive versatility. You go back and watch any of those finals games against the Bulls. When they went small and played Cliffy at the 5, that's when they disrupted a lot of things that Chicago wanted to do. He could meet players at the rim. He was pretty damn good off ball. He had length, wingspan. He had athleticism. He was great in transition. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how ahead of his time
Cliff He was Robinson version 1.0 of what we're talking about right now.
He's top 10 Blazers all time in blocks, I believe in rebounds and in points. Basically just was incredible for the entire 1990s, and then obviously transformed his game once he went to Phoenix and New Jersey and Detroit into just that stretch big who was just money off of the pick and pop and the catch and shoot. I really think that could be his ceiling because Cliff really could do it all. Like Rick Adelman just he waited a long time to unleash him. Like back then, kind of you were if you're stuck behind a guy who had more seniority, you were just stuck behind a guy. And obviously back then you weren't playing guys out of position. Like you weren't playing Cliff at the 3, you weren't playing at the 5. He was like he played the 5 a little bit, maybe for a necessity. For example, Kevin Duckworth breaks his hand in the 1990 first round. Cliff, as a rookie, has to go out there and he defended David Robinson, right? Like a grown ass rookie, David Robinson, Hall of Famer, NBA 75 greatest, and he locked him up. He showed that versatility, able to defend the best of the best at the centers, but it could also stretch the floor. Like, so I think like Taylor Hendricks puts it all together. You're looking at a modern day version of what Cliff Robinson did in Portland, and that player is definitely Robin material to Shaden's Batman because you're guaranteed to get a couple of all-star appearances, all NBA defense, and had the Blazers just been maybe ahead of the time a little bit, and it's hard to fault Rick Adelman for doing so. Like I think a lot of people would look at Cliff Robinson in a little bit different light. They may think of that ceiling as like that's it. Well, you have to realize what he was doing when the game was being played in the 90s, and then see what it's being played at now, because I see a lot of similarities between the two.
I was gonna say Jaren Jackson, but then I watched that Houston game again. I don't think Jaren's more clunky in his movements.
Jaren thank you. Like he is so clunky. I was watching, obviously the Grizzlies just played the Blazers.
He's clunky.
Jaren's got a bit of a clunky release from 3.
I feel like his movement's clunky.
He's very clunky.
Taylor.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think that's another lazy comparison.
So when I'm thinking of movement, especially with young guys that are defensive specialists, I was like, he reminds me of Evan Mobley with his movement abilities. Like Evan Mobley's the guy that people say like this is the next great defending big.
What's the next Kevin Garnett?
Yeah, but I think if we were the coaches of UCF, be Kevin Garnett, Taylor. If you can beat Kevin Garnett and use develop all of the stuff, I think he's on the Evan Mobley track. And right now we would trade everything for an Evan Mobley. So yeah, I think he's gonna follow the Evan Mobley type of defender and offensive player. So yeah, I have him as an Evan Mobley. But I think that Cliff, we're talking about the version 1.0 of what we want in the modern 4. So I definitely see these top end things I think are achievable. Like we could talk about Asor being Tracy McGrady. I don't think he hits it as much as Taylor Hendricks hits Cliff Robinson or Evan Mobley. So yeah, I have him at 4 or 5, man. Like he's that dude. He's him. So yeah, I think I think people are gonna eventually find out about Taylor Hendricks. I know like draft Twitter and the blogs are starting to catch up, but I think that I'm willing to throw my dart at top 5 Taylor.
Yep, I would agree with that, and I think that is a great spot to wrap up this Future Friday on Central Florida's Taylor Hendricks. We will be back again next Friday. We will be discussing national champion Jordan Hawkins from the University of Connecticut, sophomore shooting guard who is a bona fide bucket getter. Sage, let our listeners know where they can find us and take this one on home.
We are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Himalaya Podcast. Everywhere you get your podcast, we're there. Leave us a nice review, 5-star us, and we'll be back next week with Dustin's favorite shooting guard prospect. All right, everybody, peace.